Hello. Happy November. I hope you had a fantastic week and that life isn't too crazy post daylight savings. If you live in one of those time zones here in the US where we went through daylight savings yesterday, falling back is always a little bit earlier that first morning, and then the second morning. It's always a little bit tricky, at least in my household. So I hope you're doing well. We are also at the tail end of our incredible sugar rush with my partner turning 45 last Thursday, and then Halloween, and then 2 birthday parties over the weekend, and our oldest turns 13 today. So it is just lots and lots and lots and lots of sugar all around our house. But I hope you are doing well. I wanted to jump in quickly as we are starting off the new month and as we're a couple months into the school year, thinking about sort of why is embracing variability and thinking about and exposing our students to variability so critically important. And this comes up constantly in almost every conversation I have when we're in school. So excited to be working with some schools in New Jersey tomorrow and Ohio later this week. But also last week, I had the incredible opportunity to facilitate a 3-day workshop with professional development providers all over the country where we were digging into NASA data and how do we help kids really leverage and use GLOBE and NASA data assets and things like that as they are making sense of the world. And this reality of being comfortable with the natural variability in the world kept coming up and up and up as sort of what are things that we can do to help our students? And so I just wanted to share a few resources and put out a little plug for some things. So first off, we wrote a whole article about this back in, I don't even know, 2022. It came out. I highly encourage you to check it out where we dive in and think about sort of what are the different pieces? How do we translate? What does research say about why it's important for our students to be working with variability? And then what are some tangible strategies we can use? This is also front and center. It has a whole section in and of itself in those new data science and literacy learning progressions that came out earlier this month or earlier in the fall. Sorry, not earlier this month, but earlier in the fall from the national learning progressions that we have for our students K-2 and various different components from describing the variability to comparing variability, understanding sources of variability, variability in the computational world, right? Even just this, one, it has a whole substrand to itself of analyzing and modeling with data. And then within it, there are multiple components to that variability. So what is all the fuss really about? Well, first off, it exists everywhere. Actually, let me go back here. No, it exists everywhere in the world. And Tableau put together best data visualization examples, 10 of them. And I just want to sort of highlight, if you are a nerd like me and you think looking at data visualizations is a really fun thing, then you will have seen the Napoleon March map. This is a quintessential early data visualization. It is Napoleon's March map. It is the Broad Street cholera outbreak map, and it is Florence Nightingale's mortality in the Crimean War. These are sort of 3 of the iconic early data visualizations that we talk about. And in each one of these, in essence, what the visualizer was trying to do was take information. So each of these black bars is an instance of cholera, of somebody that died from cholera, and map it, sort of visualize it on a space because it wasn't exactly the same or everywhere, or it wasn't completely definitive numbers. We can just say 2 is bigger than 1, right? And so variability is baked in. The slight nuances and differences of the quantity of the cholera outbreaks was important. Now, within that, we could then see that there was, of all of London, there was this big concentration, London, I believe, London neighborhoods, big concentration all around here. And then that being able to see that pattern, that concentration, even though there was variability in the different households, this is where the majority of the cholera outbreak was. Then we could get to the why, which in this case turns out to be a contaminated water source, a well, and then that took us down a whole new realm of understanding cholera and all those things. But it was actually visualizing all the data and the variability of the data, as opposed to if we had just taken an average of all of these case counts and presented it for this neighborhood, we wouldn't have seen some of the nuance in the data. And that's really the big thing, sort of being able to look at this variation and the differences across helps us see different patterns in the data, and then can prompt different questions about, well, why? Like, what is that leading to? Why are we making different decisions? Why are there so many differences? I just want to point out that this is 2016. This is not 2025. Federal budgets for our current federal employees who are furloughed. Thank you so much. We deeply appreciate you. For all of our federal employees that are working and not getting paid, thank you so much. We deeply appreciate you. We sincerely hope the government will be up and running again. But there are differences in the amount of, in 2016, amount of money that we put towards different things. There are differences in where our languages are across the world. There are differences in the percentage of our population that are different ages, and we can watch the baby boomers, move through our population over time. Each one of these has a aspect of variability, because the universe and any one individual phenomenon and any one system is not always exactly the same. It is not black or white, one way or the other. There is natural variability in the world constantly. And therefore, it is really important, really incumbent upon us to include that variability, include the differences in the values, in the words, in the component, in the information, in those observations that we are collecting when we collect our data, as part of looking at the data, as part of making sense of the data. It is really hard to make sense on any real level of substance or nuance of a data set across different variables if we average away all of the variability, or if we just reduce everything down to sums or totals. Now, sometimes sums and totals are good. Sometimes averages are helpful. Sometimes the mode is helpful. The median can be helpful. But the key is not before we've looked at all of the data to have an opportunity to get a sense of what's going on in our data set, what we have, what we don't have in the data. And then we can move forward to determine, are our data normally distributed, and therefore should we take an average? Great. But if we just jump to the average, we are losing all these opportunities to really help our students build out that sense making and different pieces. Okay, so just a few thoughts on sort of why variability is important. It doesn't require all that much. Just they've collected all the data. They've accessed all the data. Just use it. And this is where I will say, it is far easier to use all of the data when we're using some of our interactive data visualization tools than when we're using our spreadsheet programs like Excel and Google Sheets. Great for data tables, not as good for visualizing all of our data, especially the variability within our data. So I hope you have a wonderful start to your November. As a reminder, a couple things. One, tomorrow is our November strategy share out, where we are going to be jumping into all things patterns. So variability and how we see things in our data, in our patterns, variability very much influences the patterns we can see in the data. So join us tomorrow, 4 o'clock Pacific, 7 o'clock Eastern, for our November free data strategy share out. I'll put a link in the notes for this live. Register, you get access to the resource document from the strategy share out and early access to the recording. Number 2, we are running our t-shirt design contest. So get your vote heard. Help us pick out what our new t-shirt design should be for all things sort of data and data literacy and all of those fun things. There's some great puns in there that are getting voted up by the community. I will put the link for that. And then, as always, If you enjoyed this, I encourage you to hit subscribe, to join our YouTube channel where we go live multiple times a week so that you can get access to tips and strategies for how to do things or why it's important or how we can incorporate it into our classroom. We try to keep them short. And with that, I am going to sign off and go back into making the final and last birthday cake. That would be the 6th dessert in 5 days in my household. And I'm going to go make that for my son for his 13th birthday. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time, stay curious, keep exploring.